build a bunch of stuff in there.
Ugh. Could you hear that? Sorry.
I didn't.
Oh, no, my phone was beeping and somebody in a Harley just drove by. Let me shut my window. Hold on. God. We live right in the center of a neighborhood and the cars going from one area to the other are so loud. So how was your trip?
It was good.
Did you get to
Excuse me, I got a little bit of cough going, so.
Did you get a lot
I think I spent too much time in the yard this week and ingested too many. I don't know what it was. Something's getting me.
There is so much.
It was fun. Really enjoyed Scotland, never being there. Ireland was good. We got quite a bit of rainy weather though, which kind of excuse me, makes it a little less fun, but you kind of get used to it after a while too.
Yeah, I'm sure that life just functions without pausing for rain like we do here.
Yeah, you just have to deal with it. We've got all the equipment stuff to go play golf in it, but when it's blowing sideways about 40 miles an hour, it takes a little bit of the fun out of it.
Oh my God. Yeah.
We got a little bit of that, not much, but
huh. Cool.
So, and we had a good crew, and this is my last trip. I've done this 3 times already, so I think I'm gonna have to let it go. It's almost playing too much golf in a row because would normally play like 11 days in a row, which a little more than I'm up for anymore.
Yeah. Oh well. Your wife went with you?
No, it was 16 guys from the Boise area for the most part.
Oh.
So a bunch of guys I play golf with at Crane Creek kind of put it together, and we had a blast. It was fun. It's just, as you keep doing those things over and over again, it just it's not nearly as much fun as the first one or the second one. So I think I've reached my capacity.
Need a different fun barrier to reach.
Yeah, and it's just the same thing. I mean, Ireland's awesome. I love it, but I don't know if I want to keep going back there specifically.
Tawna's joining us. Hey there.
Progress. Recording in progress.
Yeah. Did you keep joining us?
Yeah, I saw that.
So
Hey, Tawna.
Hi.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Doing good.
Good.
Look how long your hair is. So pretty.
Oh. It's driving me nuts.
Problems I don't have.
Yeah. I wasn't going to go there, Lawrence.
Yeah. That's been a while in the works though.
Yeah. Hey, Tawna, Lawrence, this one offer, were you able to print it?
No. I haven't even been able to open them.
Why?
I don't know.
Oh, well, you kind of need it.
Well, which one? Is it the one you sent last week?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because I'm on my phone. Let me forward it to my work here and see if that works better.
Okay. The reason why I say that is because Lawrence said he had some other offers that just didn't really finish the biting the hook. So this is really the only one we have on the table to discuss right now.
Okay, that sounds good. Let me see if this works. Yeah, it just on my phone, it just doesn't like me.
Must be your work. I can print my stuff from my phone. Your work probably has a few more filters than just being a home does.
No, it's getting my Gmail on my phone. It's not opening on my phone.
Yeah, okay. Do you want me to, can I forward to your work email or?
No, I just did.
Okay. Anyway, go ahead, Lawrence.
Tawna, do you have it now or?
No, not yet.
We can kind of go through it. It's pretty straightforward. Let me just start maybe with a quick summary. So we probably had about probably went back to probably 30 different people that had either inquired with it or had written us an offer last time. Seemed like most of them were watching the market a little bit more and not really looking at a new project, just trying to see where the Fed's going, where economy's going. So they were kind of basically that this was one of them that we had just a simple letter of intent on last time, but he's definitely very interested in the project and wants to proceed with it. So so we only got one offer back. I reached out to all the parties that I've been in contact with, either with interest or that had written offers. The rest of them didn't step up. There's really two other people that were looking at it pretty seriously. One is an RV dealership, but they kind of ran their numbers and they were thinking they were going to be down closer to 5 million. And the broker kind of asked me what they should do. And I kind of said, well, I'd sit tight on it now. I think we're going to be able to do better than that. So not that I didn't want to get another offer. I just don't want anybody wasting their number if they were that much lower.
Right.
And I got a phone call earlier this week, I think it was yesterday, from a guy that's with Auto Savvy, which I'm not familiar with, but I think it's like got some of your other internet car dealership entities. There's about 20 locations, probably 4 or 5 states. And he had interest in it. He was interested more of a lease than a purchase. Kind of told him our situation on wanting to sell it. So he was going to kind of see if they wanted to do something on it. And I never did receive anything from him either. So
Okay.
there's definitely interest. And what I can kind of tell you is everybody I've kind of dealt with that's kind of in that auto use or kind of a commercial use type thing, utilizing the older buildings, they're just coming in at a lower price point than all these people are looking, than the ones that are looking at apartment development.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of a summary of what's happened since we kind of went back for offers from everybody. So we've got this one in. That's a pretty good offer. So Shannon Robinette is the buyer. He does some different things as far as developing, but he's done some probably 4 or 5 different larger industrial properties and 3 or 4 different apartments. So he's knowledgeable in what he's doing. And a lot of what he's done is in Meridian City. So he's pretty comfortable with who the planning and zoning department is and how to go through there and get approvals. The offer is full price at 7.7, which honestly kind of surprised me a little bit, but I think he can make those numbers work if he can get the number of units on he thinks he can. And I think even if he can't get that number of units approved through the city, if it's even something maybe a little bit smaller, I think he'd still be interested in proceeding. It's just that number may have to be a little bit lower, and we don't have to, we're basically approving it at 7.7. That's, if that comes up through the approval process, and he probably may come back and want to see what we could do to reduce the price in order for him to make the deal. So on the purchase and sale agreements, the letter of intent is pretty straightforward. I would be drafting the purchase and sale agreement, which I prefer to do just because it keeps us from having to deal with somebody else's legalese and kind of use a standard form and keep it simple and straightforward. Probably the biggest issue we need to discuss is that contingency period, which is currently 45 days. So this is worded a little bit differently than all those other offers were. So he basically have 45 days to kind of look the property over, do all the due diligence stuff he needs to do as far as checking out the property specific. And then he would make application with the city within that 45 days for a conditional use permit, which is really the only approval he's going to need under what he's doing as far as application. So that's probably a lot simpler and easier method than what the other people were looking to do with the multiple use commercial multifamily. I think he's still going to have to work through ACHD and some other things, which he's done before and pretty comfortable doing as far as some of their concerns with what the project was. But he would actually make that application in 45 days. So we'd get better answers from both Meridian City and ACHD on what they will or will not approve. And we're probably going to get more due diligence so that if we did have to go forward again, we'd have a better starting base for a prospective buyer than what we've got today. And more than likely, probably one of those requirements would be that traffic study that we kind of looked into on doing on our own. So we would, more than likely, he would proceed through that process to get his conditional use. So if something happened where he didn't get approved, we would have that going forward too. So we'd have some benefit by his due diligence, provided he proceeds beyond the 45-day window. And then basically upon the 45 days would cover those two items. Kind of the second stage of it would be basically the conditional use application itself, which best case scenario would probably be a 3-4 month period, but could be lengthened out depending on what the city has going, how booked up they are as far as hearings go. And he really only needs they wouldn't need a city council approval on this application. You just need planning and zoning, according to what he has told me. And he's really not applying for any variances either. The conditional use kind of gets the multifamily use. And then, so it's a simpler version of what the other people were looking to do, but without the commercial use would have put them into really need variances and some other things as far as a multi-use with different categories of property.
Okay.
Are they aware of issues that the other group had?
One more time, I'm sorry.
Are they aware of the issues the other group had?
I told him, yeah, we talked through it with the highway district and city, and Meridian City was really in favor about anything they were looking at doing. It was ACHD that was the problem.
Oh,
And I
okay.
kind of told him I'd be my first stop. He kind of looks at it the same way I did once we kind of started talking to him without the last buyers making application, and the conditional use would count as that application. Then it really doesn't open them up to where you get some other comments too, but ACHD seems to be the big one, where ACHD has to actually come forward with an opinion on what they will or what they won't do and what they require. So that triggers their formal response. Everything else was verbal. Kind of talked to a couple different people about, kind of some of the stuff the last buyer had said in their notes and stuff. And most people said they should just make that application. They should have just made that application that was requested by ACHD, and then they never did. So we've still just got a lot of question marks on what ACHD specifically is going to do. I think Meridian City is pretty straightforward on what they had kind of indicated they needed to have. But again, unless both of them have to actually make formal comments, you never know if you're just listening to one planner talking or if it's what is a consensus among the planning team at either the city or ACHD.
Right. And did we end up going through with the land planner?
We did. We basically kind of got to just some dead ends as far as her really going and doing anything. And it was kind of her opinion too, that until somebody really makes application, that whatever they came up with was just unfounded and not enough information to really go work with them on.
Okay.
So, and she was kind of directing with ACHD. She was kind of saying, well, we almost have to do a traffic study before we even really sit down and talk to them. And that was like $8 to 10 grand. So we kind of stopped there and went back out to basically offers. So we can hopefully get somebody else going down the right path that's going to pay to do all that due diligence stuff so we don't have to.
Good. Sounds good to me.
Couple things I would do on this, maybe go through some notes I have on it. So that 45 days is basically general due diligence and applying for a conditional use permit. After that 45-day deadline, it's pretty wide open as far as timing goes, as far as when it's, you never know how long it's going to take. A lot of that is based on requirements that are made. Like if one of the things that we ran into too was on that, like the traffic report, they're probably 4 to 5 months out on just getting a consultant to do that, which basically delays that approval process up to that time period before ACHD can have the money or have the information they require in order to basically say yes or what their requirements would be. So that it could be a very lengthy time, even after the 45 days. And until the buyer gets a conditional use permit, this thing's still fully contingent on that happening.
Hey, Lawrence,
Yeah.
is there anything requiring somebody having to use consultant for the traffic within Ada County or Boise City, or can somebody else do the study that may not have as much backlog?
From what I understand, there's most of them, there's one local and the rest of them are out of state, and they're all running that time period as far as that length of time. If the city starts losing applications, or people are starting to get scared and not fulfilling what they're supposed to do for applications, that could get shorter, which I would maybe think that might be the case. We just got a lot of people that are waiting to kind of see where this whole thing's going before they start either continuing development or tabling development, or even like this, proceeding with new development.
Okay.
Apologize, my cough is whenever I'm speaking.
Whenever you need your voice.
Buyer has completed
The
a rough.
city of Meridian, they've already gotten this approved. It's going to be that. Okay, I see.
What?
I'm just thinking out loud.
Okay,
We're going to be delayed regardless, at least 6 months.
I would say so. 6 months would be best case scenario and probably unheard of in today's world. I just don't like when we looked at a bunch of those other offers we got last time that had just no deadlines. I would not proceed without some deadline in there somehow. And Shannon says he's going to proceed. There's some requirements he put in here. So one of them is if he's required to do a third-party consultant by Ada County or Ada County Highway District of Meridian City, he says he will get somebody hired and proceed on that, proceed on that within 10 days of notice. But that doesn't tell you how long it's going to take either.
Right.
So we're just at their mercy. So there are a couple of things I would do, and I can send you a draft with maybe some recommended wording tomorrow morning. But I would, and he's got an architect that's already done a rough site plan and working with some elevations that on a project he's done at Meridian and Ustick, which if you're out in that area, you may want to just run by and take a look at it. It's basically a 3-story apartment complex, kind of like what you see going on around the town, but he has gone through with Meridian City and had that approved. And on this project, he's looking at using roughly the same elevations and same site plan. And that's what he's laid it out to get to his 150 units that he thinks he could build.
Okay. Well, 6 months is going to go by quickly as long as everything comes to fruition, and we've got, a lot of
And really the only criteria right now is that 45 days to basically do due diligence on the property and then also make submission to the city for the conditional use. On this, from what this letter of intent says, there's no limitations after that
right.
that forces him to close or forces him to, give up the project if he doesn't do it in a timely fashion.
But you want to draft something to kind of fence that in, right?
I do. I want to probably set an outside limit. And this might sound too long, but I was looking at probably 450 days as an outside limit, just so we have something in there. And then maybe something else that basically some wording that requires him to, proactively work the thing at the whole time. And really the conditional use approval is based on what the city requires, but it also is about what the buyer will accept before you can execute it. So it's still got some, if somebody wanted to delay a project, they could delay this thing. And I just want to set that as the outside window, for closing.
Right.
When it says that the parties will close on or before 60 days after the execution of a conditional use permit,
Yeah.
is the conditional use permit the one that takes the longest? Is that the one from ACHD?
Well, conditional use permit is with Meridian City, so it's an application. And when you have different zoning regulations, you can do a rezone, which typically takes longer, or there's some alternative approvals that you can do through a conditional use. And with CG property and Meridian Apartments is a conditional use. You can go conditional use, so you don't have to zone it multifamily. So it's just another form of approval that's probably quicker and easier than a rezone, because it's already somewhat improved. It gives the city the right to say yes or no to it as they want to.
So Lawrence, my knee-jerk reaction to the 450 days is roughly, what, 8 months from now, Todd and his cars will be moving out of there unless we can convince them to rent month to month. So
Yeah.
What do we do about that?
I could have that conversation with him to see where he is.
Okay,
I think that is the outside window on it.
right.
If Shannon does everything he says he's going to do and even runs into some delays, I think we're pretty much on course for what would be him closing probably either simultaneously with or maybe a little prior to that lease being up.
Okay,
He kind of went through it, and this is the best scenario possible. So basically, he has 45 days to do due diligence and submit the conditional use application. He thinks he'll be through planning and zoning, have a planning and zoning hearing probably by April 1st from there. And then there's, with no variances and no city council hearing, their approvals would be basically contingent on an appeal period, which I think is roughly about 2 weeks, 14 days. So if any of the neighbors want to appeal it, they can, and that puts you kind of back into a P&Z meeting again. But he was kind of, best case scenario is April 1st under this for full approvals. And then you'd have the 60 days to close, which puts you right about at the lease expiration.
okay,
And that's the other thing I would probably work on too, is those closing extensions. I don't mind giving them maybe 1 or 2, but I think 3 is just too much time, because that's really going to take you out 120 days after his approval on closing. You basically, once he gets a conditional use permit, you get the 400,000 that he's got up, and so it starts out as a promissory note. So it's just a note from him that's held in title. So there's no money yet. After the 45 days, that still stays a note. But when he gets his conditional use permit, he's supposed to increase that to 400,000. And then that would become non-refundable.
after the
We
45.
would want that released out of the title company to you. And the wording would be there that could be released.
Okay,
And then he's got 60 days after he gets approvals to close. He's probably using that for financing and pulling partners in and kind of getting his ownership set up and everything else. But I would say he's already got 60. If we did another 90, that's 150 days after closing. I think that's too many. I might just say we cut that back to 2 days. And then maybe even cut that to 30 days after, maybe give him 30 days after execution of the conditional use to close. And then maybe give him 2 extensions on the closing extensions in case he needs them. And that money would be released to you as well. You're already going to have, when he gets conditional use approval, you have 400,000 down in your pocket, and then you'd get, some payment for, the $50,000 additional payments that would be released to you. So you'd be up to 500,000, and then closing. So I just kind of like to hold their feet to the fire and make sure that, they're not just, if you have to go borrow $7 million to buy the property, it's cheaper to pay you 50,000 that counts towards a purchase price than it is just to get the deal done. So
Yeah.
it doesn't provide them a lot of motivation to get it closed.
right.
Then I'd also do that. And I don't know if that number is 450 or what. I think probably 360 is maybe a little tight if he runs into any delays. 450 maybe too long, so maybe we go like 320 days or something. or excuse me, 420 days, 450, something like that, just as a drop dead date for closing. Because you wouldn't want to sit there and just kind of have somebody pull, you know, and I don't think he would do that, but I just don't want to be in a situation with a contract to where he could just, you know, play it out longer than we would want.
Right.
If he comes and talks to us and is proceeding to closing and running into natural occurring delays through the city or ACHD or anything like that, I think we're going to probably work with him because we don't want to go back and start over again. So do you guys have some thoughts on that drop dead date for timing?
I don't.
Why don't we go back at 400 days, which is really a year and a month roughly. And then, you know, he's just so we've got that in there.
Okay.
I'll do 400 days and we'll see what he does with that. He's ran into some other issues, like, can't remember what it was, but on the one he got approved at Ustick and Meridian Road, he ran into a title issue on some of the property that cost him 5 months. He had to go back and redo. It was with one of the neighboring properties. There was a piece that was his portion that was showing as their portion. So they had to go back through title and kind of resolve the property line. And he was just going to give them a little bit of property they needed, but the city and the county wouldn't accept that. So he had to go all the way back through surveys and re-subdivisions, kind of get it replatted so it matched up with what he had gotten approved, matched what he owned, and kind of cleaned up just a property dispute. That was, I don't know, it was like 20 feet wide on a smaller section of the property. So there wasn't much there, but municipalities would not proceed with him without him doing that. That's why he's a little gun shy.
Okay. Well, hopefully we don't have anything like that going on since we've owned the property for so long.
Yeah, and that, you know, we've got a record of survey on it, so you would think something would have shown when they did that. So that's always a good place to start.
Yeah.
Well, so a question I have in planning, you know, for expenses coming up, Barnes is paying the taxes, the property tax, right? I'm assuming he's only going to pay the half for the first half of the year.
Yeah, they're going
Yeah,
half and half. Yeah.
yeah. And I don't know how he's paying those when they're due or if they're paying them in arrears, but typically there is a period of time when you pay it to where it's actually due,
Right.
that we'll want to just make sure he's paid up through his time period there.
He's paying them as the 6 months is popping up each time there's been and it is it's for the previous 6 months, correct?
Yeah, so you're paying what you paid, what we would pay in December is for that last 6 months
from June to December.
of the 2022. So you in December of 2022, we'd pay the last half of that year.
Oh, I thought it was paying forward.
Yeah, it's in arrears, which I know is one of the only states that does it that way, but so he would have to pay something when the lease expires for that 6 months before.
Okay. And then he's going to have to pay the January through July.
Right.
And he would pay that in July.
Okay.
So it's really 6 months in arrears.
Okay. So we could potentially have sold before having to come up with this payment, but we need to plan ahead.
Exactly. Yeah. I think that's smart. Just to, we've got other people's Enterprise Car Rental still interested if he's not on, and they may even look at a short-term lease on it, or a longer-term lease. We're trying to sell it. We just ran into where everybody wants to pay more for development, doesn't want tenants on there, but we can, as that gets closer, we can kind of know where we are on it a little bit better too, and either try to redo something with Meridian Auto or maybe look at another tenant on that 1/4 section of the property.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Tawna, I think we'll be okay. Money wise, as far as staying up to date with the taxes and everything, but Lawrence, we probably should still save, we should save some money in case we have to come up with. Do you think we need, let me back up again. Do you think we need to continue banking our lease payment that we have been distributing between us? Save some money. If this guy, his due diligence is going to take care of some of the questions that we need to know that we don't really want to pay somebody else to do right now, right?
Yeah.
Like the traffic study but if we have to come up with any sort of, if he hits some dead ends and roadblocks and we have to, is there still potentially?
I would probably say yes. I would keep some, held back. And maybe that's even looking forward. It's just, this market is so scatterbrained. There's just a lot of people are hiding. A lot of people just aren't doing anything, that I just don't know when we're actually going to sell and close. I mean, when you put the property under contract, that's easy, but when somebody steps up and closes on it.
Right.
And it's nothing specific to this buyer. It's just generally everybody is proceeding with caution and concerned about what the market's going to do going forward.
Yeah. Interest rate's going to go up again, 3/4 of a point.
That's what they keep saying.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and the other thing to note too is actually, since I'm dealing direct with him, there's no other broker in it. So on that number 13, I reduced the fee to 4%. So you're actually netting more at this price than you would if we had another broker in it.
Okay.
So, because I think we have it listed at 5%. So since I'm the only one there, you'd end up with 4%.
Oh, but Lawrence, you're worth an extra percent.
Oh, I'm getting paid plenty. So yeah.
All right. We have 5 minutes left on our time allowed on the free version of Zoom.
Well, how's this sound? Let me go through this, make some of those clarifications and changes. And I'll send you a red line version of what was accepted, so you kind of see those.
Okay.
And then we can kind of get approval on that, resubmit that back to them, to the
Sounds
buyer,
good.
and just kind of counter it a little bit.
Okay. Good.
Thank you.
You bet. Thank you. And holler if you got any more questions. I think I covered everything I wanted to, but if you got anything specifically, we only have a 1-horse race running right now, but there were some other people that were still talking about doing something. I just haven't received anything from them. So,
Well, if he asks you, tell him we've got people in the wings waiting.
I'd already done that.
And so
Yeah.
the other offers that that we wouldn't like, what was not good about them
Price.
in 1 minute?
So basically, one of the buyers came out and just said we 5 million is probably as good as we could do. And I already had the 7.7 in hand. And as an RV dealership, could have probably fit in there just perfect. And the broker just kind of asked me, and I kind of said, I don't think that's going to work. So, but they're still there. They're still interested. They're just interested at, 60% of the proceeds that you're going to get from this deal. So
Yeah, they're going to buy it for 5 million, not do anything to it, and then sell it in a couple of years for double.
they could, both of these were owner occupants though, that were looking at it. So they would, well, one of them was a tenant, but they would basically, the RV dealer was going to, convert this buildings to what worked for them, which was going to cost them some money, tear down a building. And then he was going to put RV storage in the back, on the back 4.5 acres. So, but, and they, it's just that the commercial use, with the numbers that the apartment developers have been paying, it just kind of eliminates that type of use. And that's probably one of the reasons why back when I did that last opinion of value for you, I was, it might seem like it's low, but that was kind of more of a commercial use on most of it. And apartments were not paying nearly that much for the property.
Right.
Now they're just kind of way out of sync with where they were before as far as what they're paying. And they're paying such a high number that it skews it so far that way that it just doesn't make sense as a commercial use, if they can get it approved and if they can get it built and if the market holds.
Yeah. Okay. You good, Tawna?
Yep, thank you, guys.
You bet. Thank you. I'll get that over to you.
Okay, thanks. See you
You bet.
both. Bye.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.